Hello. Tonight, you won't be hearing about shining nights or grand castles lit up like someone left the chandelier on too long. There's no glory here, just mud that seeps through your shoes, hunger that settles behind your ribs, and bowls of gruel thin enough to mistake for rainwater sliding off a leaky straw roof. We're going to take our time walking into a world where you probably wouldn't last a full day. A place where plagues didn't need names, punishments didn't need reasons, and everything from the roof above your head to whatever ended up on your plate leaned gently toward that space between not quite bad enough to die and just bad enough you wouldn't want to stay too long. I don't know where you're listening from. Maybe it's a third-floor room still warm from a fan that's been humming since noon. Maybe it's a dorm room that hasn't seen a repair crew since you moved in. Or maybe it's a quiet spot somewhere far out, where the cell signal's too weak for calls, but somehow the night feels strong enough to hold you still. Wherever it is, if you're still awake, you could leave me a note, just one line, so I know where you are, what time it is, and why this story found you tonight. And if this story found you at just the right time, you could leave a small mark, a follow maybe. So next time the night feels a little too wide, we won't miss each other. Now, just stay where you are. If there's a fan, turn the wind down low. If there's a light, let it flicker a bit, like a candle running out in some forgotten tent, somewhere deep in the 14th century. Go ahead. Close your eyes. From here on out, everything will slow down. No need to imagine anything. Just let me take you to a village with no name, where everything repeats, where everything sags a little at the edges, and where everything feels quietly, steadily, real. You wake up with a cold dampness clinging to your ankles. The wool blanket, heavy with night mist, smells like smoke that's been trapped too long and a mold that no one bothered to name. A tiny beetle ambles across the edge of your dirt-packed bed and disappears into a crack in the mud wall. You don't swat it. You've seen worse. They were here before you learned how to count your fingers. Outside, the morning fog hangs like thin soup left too long on the stove, gray, sticky, and coating everything in a film that's neither solid nor wet. You hear a chicken, at least something that wants to be a chicken, let out a strangled noise from the straw shed where the birds huddle together just to feel like they're still warm. Footsteps slap through puddles that haven't drained in days, and the breeze taps at the rotting wall beside you. The whole hut groans like an old man's knees when the rain moves in. This village, if you can even call it that, sits low, in the kind of place where mud outlives memory. Nobody really named it. Your grandmother used to call it by the reeds. Your father said the lowlands. It didn't matter. The mud is the same. People just say things like over there or past that stump. No map bothers to include it. Strangers don't come. If you walk too far, the mud will take your shoe, just like it took your cousin's 2 winters ago, along with his foot. The huts are scattered like some drunk giant dropped them out of a bag and left. No rows, no logic. If the ground holds, you build. If water pools, you dig. If the wind stops, you light a fire. Grass climbs to your knees. The paths bend between soft mounds of dirt and roots that reach up like fingers from under a bad dream, slick, curled, and ready to twist your ankle if you're too fast in the fog. Each morning, you open your eyes into a gray that doesn't change. There's no sunrise, just a dull haze like light pushed through a stained dishcloth. The roof curves above you like an old man's back. Fence posts lean and crumble, painted in moss the color of wet pennies. The firewood creaks when leaned on, soft like old bread. But you don't lean. You've learned. Everything here can break. The morning air doesn't smell fresh. It smells like damp straw, chicken droppings, and smoke that never quite left. Not new smoke. This is last year's smoke, and the year before that. The kind that comes from wet logs burning in a clay stove, making thick clouds that cling to your hair, your lungs, your life. You smelled it before you learned to talk. You'll probably smell it until you forget how to breathe. No one remembers the village's name. Grown-ups say, if our ancestors didn't name it, why should we? Kids don't ask. They're busy stepping on slugs and tripping over bones that rise after heavy rain. You once asked an old woman what the name was, and she looked at you like you'd asked if the sky was edible. You didn't ask again. Outside the village is just a blur no one wants to walk into. Past the well is forest. Past the forest are stories, and past the stories, things that shouldn't be mentioned after dark. Someone once said a wild dog dragged a man away. Others say spirits did it. You think he just fell asleep cold under a tree. Either way, he didn't come back. You don't remember the last outsider. Maybe it was that one-eyed healer who passed through one fall, selling pebbles he called cold charms. Maybe it was the beggar with a broken leg who crawled over from the far hill. Then the wind changed, and they weren't around anymore. The village returned to the usual faces. Names didn't matter. You knew them by smell, by step, by the way they sighed. Children grow here like weeds. Scraped elbows, bruised knees, noses wiped on straw sleeves. Quiet, persistent, everywhere. No birthdays. They sprout from the ground and melt back into it like they were never really here. No school, no letters. The only writing you know is the scratched-up carvings on the support post. Your father says it's the Word of God, but nobody can read it, not even him. News doesn't come. The world reaches you through your grandfather's stories. He saw soldiers once when he was small. They left behind tin buckets and a new wife. That's about it. Anything else comes in on the wind or stumbles out of a drunk's mouth. Nobody knows the king's name. Nobody cares. You still have to check the rat traps before sunrise either way. Your stomach growls like it always does. That's how mornings begin here, by proving you're still alive. You sit up, push damp hair out of your face, and listen to the usual. Grass whispering, chicken scratching, someone sneezing down the lane, your mother beating mud off a boot. There's no rush. Your hands still grip the same rough-handled hoe they always do. No news, no change. Maybe your uncle's hut leaned a little more this week. Maybe the well's down 2 knuckles deeper. Doesn't matter. It's like a new wrinkle. There if you notice, gone if you don't. You step outside. The ground is cold and hard like a crusty loaf of bread someone forgot through 3 seasons. Every step makes that soft squish you stopped noticing years ago. You rub your hands together, not from cold, just habit. No one remembers why they do things here, they just do. The sky is the color of wet cement, no birds, no clouds, just a dull ceiling hanging over the village like a conversation that ended long ago. You don't expect much from it. It doesn't expect much from you. You coexist, like 2 housemates who ran out of things to say. And you, like every other morning, start another day that looks just like the one before it, with mud, with smoke, with the smell of old mushrooms and memories nobody bothers to recall anymore. The hut, mud walls, straw roof, and all. is still there, waiting for you to return. It groans a little in the wind, as if it remembers something you've forgotten. Because in this story, everything only starts from there. You stand in front of the hut without thinking much, just noticing that it's still there, not collapsed, not blown away. Still the place you crawl into when the wind picks up, and out of when your stomach starts growling. And so you go in, like you've done every other time. You live in a hut made from whatever the wind didn't take and the rain didn't wash away. The walls are a patchwork of dried clay, broken stones, last season's straw, and strips of animal hide stiff as old jerky. They're held together not with glue but with time, sweat, and the kind of necessity that doesn't ask questions. No one taught you how to build a home from other people's leftovers. You just watched your father with a shovel, then did it yourself when your turn came. Every time the rain returns, your roof gets a little worse. The bundles of straw up top seem to hold fine when the sky is dry, but once the water starts to drip, they sag, heavy and slow, like a tired ox neck. The first drop always lands on the back of your neck, never your hands, never your face. Like the sky has a sense of humor. You flinch, shrug your shoulders, and wait, hoping the second drop takes its time. It doesn't. The hut has a door, but not a latch. Just a worn board tied on with old fiber string, weighted shut with a rock. Wind still gets in through the cracks, bringing with it the smell of livestock, wood ash, and sometimes the cold breath of last night's fog. The door isn't meant to keep anything out. It's just there to stop the rain from smacking the hearth. One night, while you were sitting close by, a gust hit hard and flung the whole thing open. It creaked like knees that hadn't bent in years. You set the rock back, bowed your head, and kept sitting, counting the bits of warmth still left in your fingers. The floor's uneven, like the back of an old cow. You know every dip by heart. Some are damp, some are hard like rock, some hold the bodies of bugs from yesterday. Your soles feel their way without needing to look, like muscle memory, like an old sleep groove. In the corner, there's a pile of your things, not because it's convenient, but because that's the driest spot. There's a box with a few frayed shirts, some scraps of hide with no shape anymore, and a cloth bag full of seeds you don't remember collecting. Every time you dig through it, you touch at least 3 wrong things before finding what you need. You don't mind. Old things leave a smell on your fingers, the kind of smell time makes when it sits too long. There is a long piece of wood nailed across the wall. That's where you hang your coat, your hat, and now and then some garlic against mosquitoes and maybe worse. You bump into it every time, like your body still hasn't figured out this space is barely 2 steps wide. You've hit your head on it in the dark more than once, but you never move it. It's part of the hut now, like a bad tooth is part of your mouth. The smoke never goes up. It curls under the roof, slips down the walls, and hangs around where your lungs live. Your eyes sting in the morning. Your nose goes numb by late afternoon. Still, you keep the fire going, not because it keeps you warm, but because without it, the mold wins. Sometimes you just burn a handful of dried radish peels and sit there, quiet, watching the smoke do what it does. No need to speak. Smoke understands you. You once thought about fixing the walls, adding more mud, more straw. But your hands were tired, your back ached, and your spirit felt like cold ash, no good for building anything, so you didn't. Instead, you stare at the cracks every time it rains. It's like a slow game, watching the water choose its path, guessing how long until it reaches your straw mattress. At night you sleep in the driest spot or the least wet. You rest your head on your arm, pull a piece of cloth over your chest, and listen to the wind howl outside. The hut rocks a little with it, creaking low like it's breathing with you. Sometimes you hear something scuttle under the floor, a rat, a stray cat, or something with more legs than you'd like to imagine. But you don't get up. It's colder outside the blanket. You've lived in this hut since you first held a spoon. You'll probably die in it. The thought doesn't bother you. It's like accepting the porridge will always smell a little burnt, and one of your sandals will always be missing a strap. Nothing's ever quite enough, but it's still yours. And you've learned how to live with that without asking for more. In the morning, light doesn't come from the sun. It comes from a gap in the straw roof. A strip of dull yellow crawls through the smoke, touches your hand, and wakes you with a warmth that's more suggestion than fact. You open your eyes. Your back aches. Your shoulders are stiff. Your feet feel like rocks left outside overnight. You sit up, stretch. Your joints pop like frozen branches in the wind. You get up, step around the puddle near the wall, and slide your feet into yesterday's muddy shoes. Nothing new, but something in the wind makes you pause. Maybe the smell of rain, maybe the roof straw, maybe a bird call you haven't heard before. You tilt your head, listen, and breathe. You lift the pot from the hearth, pour in some water, a few grains, maybe a pinch of salt, if any's left. When it boils, it smells like something between burnt and raw. But you're used to it. You scoop it up. Blow. Eat each spoonful like it's the only thing holding you to this place. Sometimes you think the reason you've never left is because nowhere else smells quite like this in the morning. You sit there, holding the bowl, back against the wall, eyes on the doorway, and you know once again you'll go out, into the cold, onto the muddy path that hasn't gone anywhere. But before you stand, you touch the roof above you, rough, damp, familiar. A quiet hello before the day begins. And just before you move, you let yourself fall back for a little more sleep. Not because you're tired, just because the wind out there still feels a bit too cold. You wake up before the light knows what it's doing. It's not bright enough to tell straw from your own hair. No rooster, no bell, just wind slipping through the doorframe, smacking you across the face like a wet rag with opinions. You open your eyes slowly, because there's no reason to rush. The night has just left, but it's still hanging around in the smell of damp blankets, the creak of your spine, and a day that already looks like yesterday. You stay there a bit longer. Your back doesn't want to get up yet. It aches like someone sat on you all night. The straw under you stopped being straw a long time ago. It's now part dirt, part dust, and part memory. You tried replacing it once, then forgot, or gave up, or just remembered that nothing new lasts long in this hut anyway. You roll over and immediately regret it. Left shoulders numb, right hips cold. Your neck feels like that old rope on the cow's yoke, stiff and unforgiving. Your feet meet the air first. It's damp, cold, and smells like laundry that didn't quite dry overnight. Your toes curl, then stretch, like they're checking to make sure they're still there. They are. Cold as the river rock you picked up as a kid and forgot in your pocket. You slip them into your shoes. The lining's gone, just stiff leather now, like dry wood glued to your soles. Every step is a polite negotiation with the ache working its way from heel to knee. You sit up slowly, one vertebra at a time, like you're convincing each one it's worth the trouble. Your back pops, soft but sharp, like someone snapping a twig behind you. Your shoulders slump, heavy like a bag of wet grain, and your neck pulls tight, like an old bowstring that shouldn't be stretched anymore. You stretch anyway. It makes your head spin a little. Not alarming, just familiar. You still haven't figured out how to ignore it. Outside it's still gray. A faint beam of light sneaks through the roof slats. Not enough to see faces, just enough to see your breath drifting up like stove smoke. You sneeze, light, but enough to wake up your knee pain. You squint at the dark corner of the hut where the cat used to sleep. It's empty. Maybe it found someplace warmer, or maybe it woke up before you and left without saying anything. You touch your scalp, not to fix your hair, just to see if it's still dry. It isn't. Damp, slightly sticky. A piece of straw stuck behind your ear. You don't pull it out. It'll fall off later when you shake your head. Or maybe it won't, until bath day. And today isn't bath day. Then again, no day is. You stand, not gracefully. Your legs don't quite remember how to carry you yet. Calves tight, back hunched, head heavy like someone poured soup into it overnight. You lean on the wall. Your hand touches dry mud, hard like cracked heels in winter. Wind slips under the door, slides up your pants leg, and chills your back like it knows the routine. You shiver, not from fear, just because your body's learned to do that first thing in the morning. You lift the pot from the hearth, pour in some of the leftover water. There's a green film floating on top. You blow it aside, not to clean it, just to feel like you did something. The water hits the pot with the sound of a tired yawn. You toss in a few grains of oats, or something oat-adjacent, and set it on last night's dead coals. You lean down, blow gently, search for a red ember. There isn't one. So you start over, slowly, not expecting much. The fire lights, not bright, just enough to cast a soft glow on the wall. You sit by it, hands out, not for warmth, just out of habit. The heat moves through your fingers, then slips away before it reaches your skin. The smoke rises, not thick, not sharp, just enough to remind you it's morning. You say nothing. There's no one to hear. The bubbling pot is the only voice in the room. You ladle out the porridge, thin, gray, and exactly what you expected. Every spoonful tastes like yesterday, old grain, leftover ash, and something faint, like wet dirt. You chew without chewing, swallow without thinking. Your body doesn't ask for flavor, it just asks not to pass out. You finish the bowl, not from hunger, just because without it, you'd have no reason to stand. You wash the bowl with ash, set it on the shelf. The shelf tilts. The bowl slides down a notch, but stays. You let out a breath. Throw on your coat. The left sleeve is torn, the right shoulder stiff with soot. You shake your head. Look toward the door. The wind's still there, like a familiar guest who never leaves. You step out. Slowly. Like the floorboards might vanish if you move too fast. Your head starts to throb. Not pain, just a tap to say blood is still moving. You blink at the growing light. Somewhere, someone's rooster finally crows. Late. You don't look, just listen. It doesn't make you feel awake, just lets you know you're not the only one up. You walk toward the coop, not for any reason, just because your feet need one. Each step comes with a sound, not your footfalls, but the rustle of fabric, the click of joints, the crunch of dirt under shoes that weren't made for comfort. It's early, but early doesn't mean anything here. There are no clocks. You measure time by how deep the cold goes into your bones, how far the smoke has drifted, and how many steps it takes to get from the hut to the yard. You don't smile. You don't frown. Your face sits like packed earth, firm, unchanged, indifferent to the weather. Someone once said you looked sad, but sadness needs time. And mornings don't give you time. This morning, like all others, you have one job. Begin. Not for anyone, not for any goal, just because the day hasn't ended yet. And to begin this morning, like every morning before, you had to make it through one more night, cramped, stale, and dreamless. You don't sleep alone. In a hut too short to stand upright, there are 3 people, 2 chickens, 1 sow fresh off a litter, and a pot of ash that smolders through the night. It's small enough that you can hear every rustle, someone turning over, the pig dragging its hoof across the floor, and the chickens grumbling in their throats like they've run out of patience. You once tried counting how many times you brushed against someone in your sleep, but lost track around the 7th toe. The bed is dirt. The mattress is straw mixed with skin, feathers, and sometimes a pig's foot if it wandered too far before settling down. Heat doesn't spread here. It collects in little patches, on your mother's shoulder, between your brother's fingers, under the pig's belly. You slide into the space between 2 breathing bodies and try not to press your spine against the cold ash pot. It burned red last night. Now it's just gray and wet-smelling, like a shirt hung in the rain and forgotten. Smoke slips past your neck. Your eyes sting, not from crying, just from leftover coals doing what coals do. The wind creeps in from the door, carrying the usual, singed feathers and the faint scent of chicken droppings hiding in the straw. The chickens sometimes step on your stomach, pacing like they own the place. You're used to waking up with a beak touching your nose. You open one eye, spot the wobbling red comb, and close it again, hoping the bird realizes you're not food. It doesn't. It moves on, coos quietly, and hops down near your brother's legs. The pig's calmer. It just breathes, slow and deep. Sometimes it snorts softly, like it's reminding everyone the sun hasn't shown up yet. The smell of pig and people has long stopped being separate. It's in your hair, your clothes, even your bowl. You used to pick feathers off your shirt. Now you don't bother. Some mornings you step outside with one stuck to your back. No one mentions it. They all smell like something too, ash, damp, chicken, or yesterday. There are no rooms in the hut, just habits. You know your mother's spot because of the old blanket, once a stove sack, now so worn that if you touch it, threads float off like dust. Your brother's corner always has the sound of sleep talking and an upside-down pot. You never ask why the pot's there. Maybe it's a pillow. Your space is wherever you don't bump into a tail. Your eyes blink, not from sleep, but from smoke. The fire's long gone, but the ash still lingers, sticking to the fabric like it's trying to stay warm too. Sometimes you feel like you're sitting inside a bowl of soup, everything slightly smoky, slightly sharp. No one opens the door. It's colder outside than in. You stretch your leg, hit someone's foot. They don't move. Maybe they think it's a chicken too. You hear the pig scratching again. The sound steady, like a hoof-made clock. It comforts you, not because of rhythm, but because it means the biggest thing in the room is still breathing, still here. Once you woke up and it was gone. Your uncle had taken it, traded it for salt and 3 dull axes. You didn't cry, just took a few days to get used to the quiet. But now it's back. You can hear it breathing, feel the warm, damp air when it shifts. It's not cold, not hungry, just dirty. Like you, like everything in here. Mud flakes off the walls when the wind gets too strong. You watch them fall, crack like dry skin, and disappear into the straw. You've swept that wall before. not for cleanliness, just because the house felt too quiet. The hut doesn't block wind, doesn't hold smoke, doesn't stop rain, but it keeps the breathing in, the coughs, the soft rustling of worn-out clothes. They loop every morning, every night, like a song no one had to learn. You hear it without noticing, like the rumble of your stomach, the brush of straw on your shoulder, the cat, if the cat shows up tonight. It usually comes late, curls up under your arm, then disappears before dawn. Or maybe it never existed. Maybe it's just something the straw remembers. The ash pot cools down while you're still dreaming. You dream of lighting the fire again, but the smoke keeps going into your eyes. You wake up and the smoke is still there. Not a dream, just soft and blurry like one. The smell of ash clings to your shirt, your mother's hair, the patchwork fabric on your father's shoulder. Every hug tastes like the hearth. Every touch leaves a smudge. You tried hanging your shirt outside once. Every time you did, it rained. Or if the sun came, it was meadow sun, light, useless. The shirt came back wetter, heavier, and filled with more hut than before. You put it on. It feels like a sack of memory. It doesn't have to smell good, just warm, or something close to warm. You close your eyes and try to imagine someplace else. But every place has smoke in it, maybe because your nose is used to it, or maybe your imagination's out of practice. You try to picture a morning without smoke. It feels hollow, like a pot with no rice in it. You open your eyes. Everyone's still asleep, but they're breathing steady. The chicken murmurs again, louder this time. Maybe it's hungry. You reach for the clay bowl, the one that once held dry crumbs. Empty. You remember finishing it last night. Still, you check again. Your fingers touch the bottom, cold, gritty, nothing left but a dusting of grain. You exhale. This time, it's a sigh. You don't want to get up, but you will. Not because anyone calls, not because anything's waiting, just because there's no reason left to lie there. The ground's hard, the wind is stronger. And if you stay down, all you'll hear is more breathing. You roll over, brush a chicken leg, your brother's head, the cold corner near the hearth. Your eyes sting, your throat's dry, your back hurts like it does every morning. You pull your coat on, it still smells like ash and leather. You step over the sleeping pig, avoid the ash pot, and open the door. Outside, there's fog. You take a breath, not deep, because the air feels like damp laundry. But at least it's air that didn't come from inside the hut. You don't go anywhere. You just open the door, look out, and step back in, like you always do. The smoke is still warm. The chickens haven't quite woken up. You step carefully across the damp straw, avoiding the sleeping chicken slumped by the hearth. You crouch down and pick up the clay bowl left there since last night. It's still warm. Not from the porridge inside, but from the ash underneath, still faintly burning, like breath that refused to stop breathing until morning showed up. You don't say anything. No one does. Everyone quietly reaches for their share, surrounded by smoke, burned feathers, and the kind of silence that happens after a night too short to heal anything. You kneel, dip the spoon into the thick water inside, and accept that this is breakfast, even if you're not sure it was ever food to begin with. The porridge has no color. It's as gray as dishwater used too many times, thick like old glue in a jar that won't open. You stir, and some wilted greens float up, curled and lifeless like shredded cloth. Each spoonful brings a thread of steam, and a faint burnt smell clings to your nose like last month's fire didn't know when to quit. You blow on it, but the scent doesn't cool. Maybe nothing in this pot was ever truly cooked, just warmed enough to shift shape, from cold to warm, from thick to thin, from hope to something easier to swallow. Next to the bowl sits a piece of bread, not to complement the meal, more like evidence that someone tried. It's hard, gray, cracked like dry farmland. You pick it up with both hands and snap off a corner. Barely. It breaks like old plaster. You bite down. Your gums pull tight, like they might tear. Every chew is a quiet argument between jaw and tooth, between hunger and pain, between being alive and being tired of it. You can't remember the last time you had something crunchy in a good way. This isn't the satisfying crack of toasted crust. It's the sound of something that shouldn't be eaten getting forced into a role it didn't sign up for. Crumbs fall, half to you, half to the chicken. The chicken doesn't know the difference. It pecks at the floor like you lift the spoon, because there's nothing else. You take another spoonful. The porridge is cold now, still smells, like forgotten radish, like smoked tree roots. It sticks to your tongue, clings to your throat, and files itself into your memory. Nothing in this bowl was anyone's favorite. It just fills the slow, hollow ache that started sometime yesterday. No one talks, no one complains. Maybe they're all counting spoons, trying to guess if this will stretch to noon. You've stopped counting. You just chew slower, holding each bite longer, trying to squeeze out one more drop of energy from a flavor that gave up years ago. A soft sound behind you, the bowl set down on the floor. Then a tired sigh. Your father stands first, tightens the worn cloth belt around his coat, and picks up the dull axe leaning by the doorframe. You're still chewing, trying to crush that last chunk of bread into something you can swallow. His footsteps blend with the wind outside. Then he's gone. No goodbye. You take the last spoonful, sweep the last few stubborn greens from the edge of the bowl. The porridge slides down your throat like winter well water, not painful, just cold. You wipe your mouth on your sleeve, the same sleeve that once wiped ash, then sweat, then whatever dust time left behind. It's just you now, and the hearth. The ash is cold. No more red glow. You tap the spoon against the rim, not to make noise, just to let yourself know it's done. You set the bowl in the corner, where things that get reused wait. Everything gets reused here. Smells, tastes, habits, even the part where no one asks what day it is. You stand up, bare feet press against cold, hard dirt, your toes still numb, knees clicking like old bamboo. You grab the thin cloak, drape it over your shoulders, and glance back at your breakfast spot. Nothing's changed. The bowl's still chipped, the bread still dry, the taste still feels like ash sneaking into your mouth when you weren't ready. Outside it's a little brighter now. You step toward the door, belly half full, carrying the fading heat of a fire that was never strong. The ground is damp. The wind moves around your legs. The air smells familiar, like a new day that forgot to be new. And then you remember what comes next. The jug by the door, the one with the cloudy yellow liquid. They still call it beer. You lift it. No toast, no words. Just a sip, same as every other morning. It slides down like rainwater that waited too long. And then you open the door and step outside. You step out of the hut with the last bit of heat still clinging to your back like smoke that didn't want to leave. Your hand smells faintly of weak beer and something dry and sour, like you wiped it on the wrong thing. The air isn't freezing, but it isn't inviting either, just enough to keep you from walking slow. you pass the pig trough. The sow is lying on its side, breathing like it just drank a sad cup of beer itself. The mud under your feet grabs at you like old thoughts you meant to forget. Every step pulls something up that was never really yours. Not this dirt, not this rain, not even the rotting shoes on your feet. All of it belongs to someone else, the Lord mostly. The fields, the sheep, the narrow path you're standing on, each one claimed and named in a voice you never dared to pronounce wrong. The house you live in isn't yours, just a lopsided wooden hut, patched with bark and dried leaves on borrowed ground. No deed, no paper, no proof. The only thing keeping you there is silence. A long enough silence so no one asks, who gave you the right to cut grass past the line? When you harvest a sack of grain, you don't eat it. You hand it over. When you kill a chicken, it's not for your pot. It goes in the cart. Even a fat turnip, if it looks too proud of itself, gets pulled and sent off, because it belongs to the Lord. You eat what's left, what the worms got first, what never had a chance to finish growing. You remember once, your father hid a piece of cheese, just a thin sliver, no bigger than a bottle cap. He got tied to a post for 3 days, no shade, no water. You were 7. They let you bring him a bowl of porridge, but the guard said, "No one eats from this land without permission." Then tipped the bowl into the dirt. It soaked into the dry grass and vanished. That's when you learned, even pity can be taken away. Your food, your clothes, even the sewing needle your mother kept tucked in her dress. Any of it can be taken, as long as someone says, "That's not yours." You never argued, not because you didn't know how, just because your voice never seemed heavy enough to stay in anyone's ear. Everything you said blew away like ash before anyone cared to listen. Every autumn, the Lord sent men to collect tax, not coin. You didn't have any. They took chickens, roots, blood from your fingers. One year, you were sick and missed the mustard crop. They took your only blanket. You slept 3 weeks in the fog, teeth chattering like someone knocking at a door no one would ever open. But no one blamed them. They were just doing their job. A job to remind you that nothing belongs to you, not even the body you wrap up at night. You heard once that deep in the forest, there were people living free. They hunted, built homes, gave nothing to anyone. Then, one day, they were gone. Someone found a skull with a sword still stuck in the forehead. No one said freedom out loud after that. You just told yourself, surviving is hard enough. The rest can wait. When you worked in the Lord's yard, you weren't allowed to look at him. No one was. A child once did, got slapped so hard he tumbled off the porch. His mother bowed, said thank you, and pulled him away. You've fallen like that too. No one helped you up. You got up yourself. Staying down too long was considered taking space, and taking space meant punishment. The guards that circled the village weren't there for your safety. They were there to make sure you remembered your place. They'd check your pockets for potatoes, count the eggs in your mother's basket, ask, "How many days has this hen been laying?" If you guessed wrong, you were punished. If you said nothing, same result. The trick was always the same. Answer just enough. Not clever, not stupid, just enough. Sometimes you wonder, if you died, would anyone notice? Maybe someone would come to inspect, not to mourn, just to see if the hut was empty now, ready to be given to someone else. Your body would be dragged behind the village, dropped into wet dirt. No marker, no name, no goodbye. Those things don't belong to you. They belong to people with gold, papers and family near candles inside castles. You once dreamed of lying in the grass doing nothing, just looking at the sky. But even that dream felt wrong. The grass belongs to the Lord, the sun belongs to the Lord, and if your back rests too long, it's called laziness, and laziness is just theft by another name. So you stand. You always stand. One hand on the hoe, one foot in the mud, eyes on the ground. You've learned not to ask, not to look up, not to think too hard. And you call that living, not the kind in stories, just the kind that isn't dying, consistent, allowed, quiet. And each time you cross the damp yard, you know the truth. Your feet never land on anything that's yours. But you keep walking, because stopping means disappearing. And you don't disappear unless someone tells you to. You return home before dark, because the light doesn't belong to you either. You don't go inside yet. Just stand there for a bit, between the fading light and the ground still wet, exactly like it was when you left. You press the hoe into the ground, not too deep, not too shallow, just enough to stand it upright like a temporary stake in a place where nothing ever really belongs to you. Your hands are still wet. Dried mud clings to your cuffs. Your shirt smells like weeds crushed into fabric that's too tight across your chest. Wind brushes your back, gentle, not cold, just enough to remind you that no matter how many mornings you show up, the ground under your feet has never once called you by name. You used to think maybe the hoe was yours. You held it from sunup to sundown. But then you remembered last year when you got sick, and it was handed to another child. Same crooked handle, same chipped blade, just a different hand. And that's when you understood, even the things that stay closest to you don't stay yours. The hut you go back to every night doesn't have a lock, doesn't need one. No one's going to steal what can be taken back with a single sentence. The roof's flat. The post leans. The smoke never really leaves. But if you died in winter, the hut would pass on to someone younger, stronger, not yet aching. They'd sleep in the same spot, against the same cracked wall, under the same blanket you once pulled up to your chin. You remember the chicken, the last one left after that hungry season. It used to hop into your lap in the morning, tuck its head under your coat, like it knew all you had was one bowl of porridge. But when the taxman came to count chickens, you tied its legs with rough string. They didn't ask why you raised it, just why it hadn't been handed over yet. It made a sound in the basket, then nothing. That night you drank more weak beer than usual. You had a tin basin once, so old your reflection looked like someone else's. Pale skin, no light in the eyes. Still, every time you scooped water, there it was. Not clearer, not louder, just there. Then one day the basin was taken, along with a bucket, a hammer, and a dull knife. The message said, "The Lord requires supplies for the winter estate." You nodded, set it on the cart, like paying off a debt no one ever loaned and no one would collect. The shirt you're wearing now isn't new and wasn't always yours. It was your brother's, then your younger brother's, then yours again, with sleeves frayed down to the elbows. Every time you put it on, you smell someone else's sweat, feel someone else's stitching, see seams that don't match. But that's fine. Around here, anything can be reused, so long as it still has all the buttons. When you sit by the fire, back curved, knees hugged close, you think about that phrase you heard before you could read. The Lord gave us land so we may work. He gave us roofs so we don't freeze. He gave us poverty so we remember to be thankful. Your mother said that. So did your grandmother. And when you said it to your own child for the first time, your throat filled with smoke, not pride. The land doesn't carry your name, not even if you die on it. If there's a marker, it might say, faithful laborer. But usually there's no marker. The wind blows, the rain washes, grass grows over the dip. You don't need to be remembered, just left alone long enough to finish the last few rows before your knees decide they've had enough of the cold. Once you asked your father, "When do we get to have something that's ours?" He didn't answer, just pointed to the village well. "That water's for everyone," he said, "except during drought." Then pointed to the sky. "That rain's for everyone too, unless the Lord is hosting a feast." When your tooth aches, you don't go to a healer. You chew time. Wait for it to fall out. If you're lucky, it doesn't get infected. If you're not, you won't need to worry about next season's harvest. The Lord will. Someone else will take your place. Maybe your son, maybe a cousin, maybe someone new. But they'll hold the hoe, wear the shirt, eat the old porridge, and carry on from wherever you left off. What they call rights, you don't speak of them. They show up when no one hits you that day, or when a scrap of cheese is handed out at festival time. That's a gift, no promise. But you're expected to be grateful. And if you forget to bow, someone will remind you. And so, you live, not full, not warm, not happy. But still here, among things that aren't yours, don't carry your name, and won't stay with you long. You're just holding them, for now, until the Lord wants them, or forgets you had them. Tomorrow morning, you'll go back to the field. Your back a little more bent, your shirt torn in a new spot, your hands thicker with callus. But you'll dig, you'll eat. You won't say the Lord's name. You don't have to. He already knows. And sometimes when you step outside into the colorless light, you'll hear something faint in the distance, soft, like a voice that never fully forms, reminding you the road isn't quite finished yet. You don't remember what time you woke up that day, just that it was still dark when you opened your eyes, and the fire in the stove had long since gone out. Your feet were too cold to move. You slipped on your coat like it had been stitched to your arms, picked up the hoe like it was a part of your body, and stepped out into the cold with your breath still visible in the air. No one woke you. No one told you to go. But you knew it was your turn today. You walked through the village in silence. The only sounds were wooden shoes tapping the wet ground and the quiet breath of others, same hunched backs, same gray coats, same eyes lowered. The path to the woods wasn't long, but in the fog, it always felt twice as far. Every step through wet grass sent a chill up your calves. Mud clung to your heels, then to your shins, and if you stepped wrong, all the way up to your knees. You didn't complain. You didn't talk. You just kept walking, because the overseer didn't like latecomers. When you arrived, no one explained what to do. No one needed to. A pointed finger was enough. Today it was digging holes, or clearing out a pen, or patching a roof, or filling a ditch. You lowered your head and got to work. Your hands scraped dirt. Your back stiffened. Your eyes stung from the smoke of damp firewood someone had tried to burn nearby. Each swing of the hoe was like an old question that no one had answered in generations. Why? But you got used to it, like the calluses, like the knees that clicked whenever you bent. You worked without pause, stopping only when the overseer glanced at you, like he was reminding you not to stand too tall. You straightened for a moment, just long enough to feel your spine stretch like it was tied to a thorny rope, then bent again. There was no break, no tea, no rooster to call out lunch. Because this wasn't your workday, this was a day for the Lord. No one in the village got paid for days like this. No bread, no salt, not even a thank you. No one dared ask. They called it duty, contribution, an honor to help build the estate. You never saw the estate. You didn't even know where it was. Once you thought about asking just one small question, whether you might keep a bit of the firewood you gathered. But then you saw the overseer's eyes, cold and dry, like ashes that wouldn't burn again. So you swallowed the question, along with a mouthful of spit that hadn't tasted like anything in years. You caught a splinter when patching a fence. It went in deep, bled a little. You didn't have a bandage. You packed mud over it to stop the bleeding. It worked. The pain dulled, just a faint sting when the wind picked up again. Later, when you carried straw from the barn to the yard, your shoulder screamed like bone pushing through cloth. You knew that pain would be with you through the night, and the next day, and maybe longer. But that was the only reward you'd get, an ache no one could take away. Afternoon came without saying its name. The light dimmed, the wind picked up. The overseer stopped shouting. When you stood for the last time, your hands trembled, not from cold, just too tired to hold the hoe properly. But you brought it back anyway, out of loyalty, or because if you didn't, you'd have nothing to hold tomorrow. You walked home at dusk. The village was quiet. A dog barked somewhere, lost in the wind. You stepped through the old fence, opened the hut door, and sat by the ashes. No one asked what you'd done. No one praised you for building prosperity. Your child looked at you, then lowered their head and kept peeling turnips with a chipped knife. You weren't hungry, just thirsty. But the weak beer was gone, and the water jar was almost empty. You drank. It didn't soothe your throat, just filled it, slowly. Before bed, you peeled off your coat and hung it on the beam. You caught your reflection in the old tin mirror. The bruises on your back looked like smoke stains. Your shoulder slumped. Your hand was swollen, but your face was blank. Like every night, not happy, not sad, not curious. These Labor Days came a few times each month, enough that you forgot when the first one was. You didn't expect a last one either, because when they stop calling your name, it doesn't mean you've earned rest. It just means your body can't hold a hoe anymore, and they don't need you again. You lay down. There's still dirt in your hair, dry straw in your sleeves, a faint taste of iron in your mouth, like your whole body had turned into part of the thing you hauled all day. You closed your eyes. The wind slipped through the walls, and in your head, one thought surfaced. At least I got to come home today. No one said it out loud, but in your mind, it was there, like a small courtesy that somehow still mattered. And just before sleep, you remembered a story about someone who once thought about leaving the village. But that's another story, for another day. You heard once, probably from the blacksmith during one of those long winters when the beer was too weak to forget anything properly, that somewhere past the turnip fields and the weedy marshes, there was a stone road. And that road led to a city with red-tiled roofs and the smell of fresh bread in the morning. But you never believed him, mostly because he said it right after tripping over his own boots, and because you've never gone farther than the old oak at the edge of the village. No one has, except maybe the father of the rats, the ones the village cats have never caught. The path past the kiln goes through a dump, then disappears into brush. After the rains, it sinks deep enough that you have to sidestep or sink. A few children tried crossing it once. They came back with leeches up their legs, scrapes on their hands, and stories about snakes in the grass. One lost a wooden shoe. Their mothers didn't scold them, just sighed and said, "Next time, bring a knife." But there was never a next time. You didn't stay because you were scared, or because of the snakes, or the stories. You stayed because there wasn't anything out there looking for you. And there wasn't anything in you the world out there was missing. Your village is poor, old, quiet in the way wet logs are quiet after winter. But it never lied to you. It just held on, softly, like wet clay sticking to your heels, then your ankles, then pulling at your knees, whispering, "Stay here. It's not better out there." You grew up with familiar noises, the wind scraping the thatch, rats chewing turnips in jars, the old woman next door coughing every morning, then stopping. Nothing loud, nothing cheerful, but nothing terrible either. The wall of your hut cracked once, just wide enough for the wind to slip through, but too narrow for sunlight. Your bed dips on one side, just enough that you don't fall. Those little just enoughs are why you've never gone. No one has. Sometimes someone disappears from the village, not to leave, just to stop coming out of their house, and then to stop moving altogether. They get wrapped in a sack, taken behind the hut, buried under cabbage rows. No one asks where they wanted to go. No one wonders if they ever thought of anywhere else. In your village, death doesn't come with bells, just silence, and more silence after that. Like each day ties to the next with the same wooden spoon, you used to dream, nothing big, just to see snow fall on something that wasn't a straw roof, to walk on a wooden bridge that didn't creak like a tired hip. You thought once about going farther than the oak just once, but that was the day you had to dry grain, or dig a trench, or patch a shirt for your kid, so you forgot. Dreams take spare time. You haven't had any in years. You once asked your father, "Did you ever go anywhere?" He paused for a long time, then said, "Yes," and that was all. Shorter than you wanted, but you understood. His yes didn't go farther than the mustard field. His yes was enough to make him never bring it up again. You felt the same. Sometimes silence is the only thing that gets passed down, along with the bent hoe and the boots with cracked soles. A horse ran through the village once, didn't stop, just rushed by like wind, fast, clean, wrong. A kid said it was white like flour that hasn't been ground yet. No one knew where he got that image. Everyone in the village only knew gray and brown horses. But the sentence lasted longer than the child did. You still remember it, not because of the horse, but because it was the first time something outside passed through, then left. You stopped wondering. No one leaves, not because they can't, but because they don't know what's waiting. And to stay, you don't need a reason, just not enough of one to go. Each day you pass the same old oak, look at its cracked bark, sometimes spot a knife mark, and think, maybe your father stood here too. Maybe he thought the same thing, that going far wasn't as hard as knowing where you were going. Each season, the oak grows a ring. You grow calluses and shoulder aches. But you're still here, still on the same rock, still facing the same overgrown path, still not moving. You used to believe someone would come one day and say, "Come with me." But all that ever came were thicker clouds, longer winters, and a child asking the same old question, "What's out there?" And you answered, steady like your father did, "Nothing much." And then, one morning, when your throat felt drier than usual and your steps didn't land right, you realized you might be getting sick. You first noticed you were getting sick when your throat felt like half-burnt hay and your eyes turned hazy like someone rubbed fireplace ash across them. It didn't hurt much. You didn't cough, just felt heavy, as if someone had filled your bones with warm mud and forgot to stir. You lay down on your bed, the one with the sag in the middle, and didn't get back up for 3 days. Nobody in your village calls that serious, just a little tired, a little weak, a little like you were slipping slowly into something softer than sleep. There's no doctor where you live, no medicine, no one selling herbs from behind a counter. When someone gets sick, their family might tie a root around their neck and whisper things into the fire, not because it works, but because there's nothing else to do. Silence and smoke are cheap, and when you're burning up, they're the only things you've got. Your mother once told you about a man who lived to 50. She didn't remember his name, just that he walked with a limp and had a long beard. People looked at him the way they looked at a fence post that hadn't rotted yet, not because he was wise, just because he was still around. He died one winter when the turnips dried out like rocks and the gruel was nothing but hot water. Nobody cried. Someone just said, "Well, he finally got there. You had a fever before, not this time, last time. Bad enough that you wet the bed without noticing. Your skin was soaked. The stink of urine and wood smoke and sweat wrapped around you like a blanket nobody wanted to touch. You woke up with a slow heart and a head full of bricks. Before you opened your eyes, you heard the wind slipping through the wall. Your mother was stoking the fire, back bent, hands shaking. She didn't turn, just said, "Still breathing." That's something. Nobody names the sicknesses in your village. It's not the flu, or the fever, or anything fancy like that. It's just sick. Everyone's been sick. Some made it through, some didn't. You remember the weight of a hand on your forehead, not to check for heat, but for hope. If the hand was cold, you stayed. If it stopped coming back, maybe it was your turn. Some say sickness comes from ghosts or sins, or a bad wind slipping through an old grave. Others blame well water hit by lightning, or gruel that sat out too long. But nobody knows, because if someone did, 3 children wouldn't have died that month, and people still eat the leftover gruel, because what else is there? People usually die when a cough outlasts the season. They curl up, chest rising and falling, then, one morning, nothing. No one counts the days. No one writes anything down. Folks just remember the rice didn't ripen right, the turnips weren't sweet, and now there's a new hole behind someone's hut. No ceremony, just one less person hauling water, one more spot at the table, and a coat nobody wears anymore. Once you saw a child shaking from a fever so hard it made the whole cot rattle. His mother smeared clay on his forehead, said it'd cool him down. But the clay dried, then cracked, then crumbled off like nothing had been there at all. He died at dusk, quiet as a pot lid dropping shut. No scream, no flinch, just one long breath, and gone. His mother stayed next to him until night, then stood up, lit the fire, cooked for the living. You didn't panic when you got sick. Nobody does. Sickness is just part of the day, like a soft turnip, or a snapped rake handle, or the little burn you get when the kiln spits back. It shows up without knocking, stays as long as it wants. Not a crisis, just another thing. You've seen your foot swell until it couldn't fit in a shoe. You've swallowed so dry you couldn't finish a spoon of porridge. You've coughed blood into your sleeve and said nothing. Because what would anyone say back? At most, they'd give you a look, not pity, not surprise. Just that same look they give the sky when it's cold again. Sickness doesn't make you special, doesn't make you fragile. It just makes you pause. You stop plowing, stop tying straw, stop fetching water. But you know, eventually, you'll have to get back up, even if your legs argue, because no one carries your chores for more than 2 days. When it lasts longer than usual, your options shrink, live or don't. No one takes you anywhere. No one prays over you. No one clutches your chest and begs. They just keep working, cooking, drying grain. One neighbor might swing by, drop an onion in the corner, say, "For your belly." Then leave. If you live, you eat it. If you die, it sits there, shrivels, dries out, ends up in the trash, like you were never there. You once thought sickness would kill you, or at least slow you down. But truth is, nobody lives long enough to notice they're slowing down. You just stop talking so much, laugh less, stand still for shorter stretches. You lift your leg with both hands when lying down. You breathe twice before getting up. Nobody notices, not even you. You're too busy staying alive. You got through your last fever. No medicine, no miracle. Maybe death was busy next door. Maybe the fire was close enough. Maybe you were just used to feeling worn out. But you lived. And the next morning, you put on your straw coat, stepped outside, and heard the chickens, like nothing ever happened. At the far end of the village, your neighbor's hut is quieter than usual. No smoke, no footsteps, just a door left open a crack, like it's waiting for someone to come in or someone to carry news out. You stand outside the little hut, same as every morning. Your feet are soaked in mud. Your chest smells like cold smoke. There's no rooster inside, no footsteps crunching on the dry grass, no turnips boiling, no cough cutting through the dark, just silence. Thick as a wool blanket, heavy and damp. You don't knock, you don't call out, you just stand there like you're waiting for someone else to say what you already know. The man who lived there had a crooked back, a gravelly voice, and eyes like cooled ashes. He once helped you mend a fence in the cold, handed you half an onion when you had a fever, and watched you carry firewood without saying a word. Last week he sat at the doorway, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the clouds. You remember how the sunlight hit his hair. It looked like falling ash. He said, "Feels colder this year." That was the last thing he said. You heard the cough on the third night, rough, dry, like he was trying to push something out of his chest that didn't want to leave. You pulled the straw blanket up and turned away, not because you didn't care, but because you didn't know what to do. Nobody in the village gets up for a cough in the dark. They just wait. Either it stops, or the person making it does. The next morning, the hut was still. You passed by slow, shoulders low, steps softer than usual, like you didn't want to wake someone who wouldn't be waking up. There was a smell in the air, not strong, but there. Maybe wet earth, maybe meat left too long, maybe cold ashes. You didn't want to breathe it in, but you did. You've smelled it before, when the pig behind the shed died before the rain came, when something once warm turns into something else. His wife was sitting by the door, arms around a bundle of dry leaves, her skirt dusted in ash. Her eyes didn't blink, didn't shine, didn't cry. She didn't look at you, didn't say a word, just sat there, like a rock someone put down in the right spot and forgot to move. A small fire burned beside her, thin smoke leaning off toward the field. Not for heat, not for food, just burning, quietly. Nobody told you to stop, so you didn't. You kept walking, each step sinking into last night's rain. The sound under your shoes was soft and wet, like pressing into a sponge that never dries. You didn't look back, not out of fear, but because you knew it wouldn't change anything. If he was gone, he was gone. If he wasn't, he wouldn't want you looking. People don't hold funerals in your village. No bells, no black scarves, no sobbing in the dirt. Just a quiet that spreads like ash across the yard after a windstorm. You don't know when they'll take him away. Maybe this afternoon, maybe tomorrow, maybe not until the smell becomes too much to ignore. Someone will show up, dig a hole behind the hut, not deep, not wide, just enough. Nobody will say much. Nobody will tell stories about him, what he wanted, what he feared. Death here doesn't come with memories, just enough ash to scatter, just enough dirt to cover. You remember him telling a story once about getting bit by a dog, not to make you laugh, just because there wasn't anything else to say that day. You remember his hands, thin, rough, like yours now. You used to wonder if he was scared of dying, but you never asked. People don't ask things like that around here, same way they don't mention the cough that doesn't stop or the headaches that last all week. Death here isn't what you pictured when you were little. It doesn't shout, doesn't crash through the door. No one runs, screaming names. It comes quiet, like fog at dawn, like soft rain, like a shadow that stretches a little longer before it disappears. You used to think it was something big, but now you know it's small. So small it can slip through the cracks in the wall without making a sound. Maybe he knew, maybe not. No one ever really does. You don't know when your turn is either. But this morning, when you walked past his hut, you reached out and touched the wooden post he used to lean on. It was cold, cracked like an old knuckle. You don't know why you touched it. Maybe it was a hello, maybe a goodbye. You didn't speak all day. You fetched water, ate your gruel, patched the rice field like usual. But every time your hands paused, your eyes drifted back toward the hut. Now it's shut tight. No smoke, no sound, just a dark shape on a gray day. You didn't go closer, not because you were scared, but because you didn't want to be the one to say it out loud. As the sun dropped, someone walked by and laid a bundle of straw by the door. No one said why. Maybe to burn, maybe to sleep on. A kid threw a rock into the puddle out front and ran off. His wife still sat there, eyes open, seeing nothing. Tonight you'll try to sleep like always, but you know that cough might come back in a dream, hoarse, stubborn, hanging on the wind. And when you wake up, you'll go to the hut again. You won't knock, you won't call out, you'll just check to see if the silence is still there. Tomorrow they'll dig the hole, not deep, not dry, not clean, but just enough. You don't know why they came for you that morning, but when someone knocked on your door, you stood up without thinking, like your body already knew what it was about. The sky was still gray, the ground was still wet. Nobody said much. The man just nodded toward the hut, shut tight for 2 days now. You didn't ask. You didn't need to. In this village, if it isn't the field, it's the other thing. They handed you a shovel, old, dull, handle worn smooth, right where everyone grips it. You followed them to the back of the huts, to where the grass grows patchy and the air sometimes smells like ammonia. People call it the back, that's all. No one says cemetery. That's too formal. You started digging before the sun showed up. The dirt was soft and wet. Every shovelful came up heavy with clay and soggy roots. Scoop, stick, lift, drop, over and over. Each movement sounded like a sigh. You didn't think, just did. Your back tightened up like an old rope, one that's been tied too long. Sweat didn't roll down your face. It just stayed there, mixed with kitchen smoke, sticky, like someone smeared ash across your forehead and forgot to wipe it off. The hole didn't go deep. It never does. The land doesn't allow it. Just beneath the soft layer is a slab of clay thick enough to blunt your blade. At one point, your hand slipped, tore a bit of skin, mixed in with the mud. You didn't stop. Nobody ever stops. The hole just needs to be deep enough so nobody comes back out. That's the rule. The body came later, wrapped in a rough burlap sheet, tied with plant twine. No cross, no letters, no coffin. Wood cost more than the body now. When they moved him, the fabric pulled tight, showed the shape beneath. One toe slipped out once, black nail, shriveled skin. Someone tucked it back in, tied the knot a little firmer. Nobody said a word. You looked down at the ground, wet and soft like porridge gone cold. There was just enough solid space for your feet to stand without sinking. Each step took effort, like pulling your legs out of half-set glue. The hole was filled in less than an hour. No one cried. His wife had already gone back to the hut. Not to hide. There was still wood to chop. Nobody stayed to watch. You didn't either. Filling in a grave feels a lot like tucking someone in for the night, except nobody gets warmer afterward. The dirt goes on evenly, not packed. Let the rain in easy. You know in a few weeks the ground will sink a little. The smell might rise. Someone will come by and toss in another layer. It's normal, just part of the rhythm. You remember the first time you dug a grave. You were younger. Your hands shook. Your stomach turned. That one was a baby, not even 2 harvests old. Its eyes wouldn't shut, and there was still milk on its chin. It rained that day. Your shirt clung to your back like another layer of skin, and every scoop of dirt made you dry heave. But not now. Now you can dig and think about what's for lunch. An older man once told you they used to carve names into wood, birth dates, death dates, the usual. But one good rain, and all of it washed away. After that, nobody bothered. Now it's just a crooked branch stuck in the ground, if that. The living don't need to remember the dead. They need to remember planting dates, compost schedules, how many sacks of rice are left. Memories don't feed anyone. When it's done, you stand up straight. Your spine pulls tight, like something stuck inside and won't come out. Your back aches in little pulses. The mud on your hands has dried and cracked. You wipe your face with your sleeve, then lean down to check the grave again. Not because anyone asked you to, just to make sure no one trips on it later. A bird cries out from a nearby branch, loud, sharp, right through the damp air. You look up but don't see it. Morning light isn't strong enough to reach the sky yet, just enough to see the ground. Everything up there feels wrapped in cloth. You turn, walk away, not fast, not slow. Your legs are heavy, but they've done this before. Every step makes a sound, schlip, schlup, schluck. You don't wipe your hands before picking the shovel back up. What's the point? Everybody's hands are dirty. When you get home, you leave the shovel by the door, same place as always. Nobody asks anything. Your wife hands you a bowl of thin porridge. No meat, no greens, you eat it. The smell of soil still sits in your nose, but you've learned how to ignore it. Someone asks, "All done?" You nod. They nod back. Then they go on patching the roof the wind tore up last night. This afternoon, someone might start coughing again. You might get called again. The ground might sink again. You'll pick up the shovel again. You don't hope for it, but you don't run from it either. Every death is just another chore, like plowing, like mending, like stoking the stove. Graves don't go deep here. The ground won't let them, and the living don't have it in them to ask for more. You've just finished covering the grave. There's still mud caked around your fingernails. The lines on your palms are clogged with half-dried, half-slick dirt that smells like wet rope and bitter rain. You lean the shovel back against the wall, same spot as always. Nobody tells you to. It doesn't need cleaning. It never does. You walk over to the water trough near the pig pen. The surface has a thin film, milky, oily, floating slow between a few rotting leaves. It's the kind of water that accepts everything: people's hands, oxen hooves, dirty sleeves, pig snouts. No permission needed. You sit, dunk both hands in. It stings, like cold needles pushed under your nails. You grab a handful of wet sand and scrub. There's no soap. You've never even heard the word said out loud, just ash from the stove, grit from the trough, and a raw scraping that leaves your skin tingling like it's been peeled with a dull knife. Even after the rinsing, a greasy layer clings to your fingers, like pork fat. But that's fine. The hose waiting for you, leaning against the wall, rust on the blade, handle worn thin as your grandfather's wrists. The sun's still up, the field isn't done, and the livin' don't get to stop. You step into the field. Yesterday's rain has left puddles that squish when you walk. Each footfall makes a soft glup sound, slow, sticky, tired. The mud clings to your heels, falls off in chunks, then sticks again. Your calves ache, like they're being squeezed by a wet cloth twisted too tight. Each lift of your leg reminds you that you're still here, and being alive means you keep going. Today's patch is on the village edge. The soil's firmer, less sinking, more rocks. You drive the hoe in. It hits stone and skips, metal bouncing back with a flat clack. You try again and again. Your hands start to tremble. Your wrist burns, then numbs, like it's been dunked in snowmelt. You don't curse, you don't grunt. You just keep swinging, like digging is the only way to make sure you don't end up in the same hole you filled this morning. A breeze passes, not cool, not strong, just the smell of damp straw and half-burned wood from someone's stove. You inhale, then you cough. Afterward, you lean down, hold your knees, wait for the tightness in your chest to ease off. Then you dig again. Each strike feels the same, not for harvest, not for progress, just to keep your hands busy, your head from hollowing out, and your gut from remembering the smell of a wrapped-up body. Your back stretches, not sharp pain, just that slow, grinding pull between joints, like a rope being tightened in the wrong direction. Sweat runs down your spine and soaks into your waistband. You hitch up your pants, wipe your nose with the back of your hand, and keep going. The sun tilts lower, casting long shadows through your sweaty hair, turning your figure on the ground into something between a scarecrow and a walking tent, heavy, slouched, and stained. Nobody asks if you're tired, not because they're cold, but because they're tired too. Everyone's got sore arms, everyone's hungry, everyone's hands shake a little, but nobody says it. You just breathe through it, swallow it. If someone drops, They'll be laid into the same soft pit you worked this morning. If it's you, the hoe will pass to the next hand. That's all. No words, just the sound of wood meeting skin. You look up. Far off, a few people are hunched like bent nails, scarves wrapped tight, hands never stopping. Kids play at the edge of the field where the ground's still soft. One falls, mud on the knees, and laughs like they've never seen death. You watch them for a second, not jealous, not cheerful, just a pause behind your eyes. When the sun sinks behind the trees, you straighten up. The hoe is still in your grip, but your arms aren't listening. Your shoulders droop. Your legs feel like rocks. You wade through the last stretch of muck, mud rising up to your calves. Each step sounds like a tired knock on an old wooden floor. On your way back, you pass the grave again. The dirt's still damp. No grass has returned. The hut leans near the woodpile. A bit of firelight flickers out from the doorway, enough to see shapes, not faces. You step inside, set the hoe down, and lower yourself beside the fire. Your wife is scooping boiled greens, the kind that has no taste, just the scent of hot water and overused pots. She hands you a bowl. You eat slowly. Nobody brings up the body. Nobody talks about tomorrow. Everything just carries on like nobody ever died, like nobody ever coughed. You just chew. Long enough for the bowl to empty. Slow enough to quiet your stomach. You lie down on the straw. Your back throbs. The pillow's as soft as a stone. Wind slips through the wall. You pull the cloth up over yourself. Curl your legs. Your eyes don't quite close. There's no dream in your head, just the list. The field's only halfway done. The roof still leaks. And someone definitely will cough again. You didn't dream last night. Just your own breathing, steady, like wind squeezing through a crooked doorframe. And the quiet rumble of your stomach, soft and thin, like something small you forgot in the dark. You woke up before the sun, not because of a rooster, not because of a clock, but because your body knows not to rest too long. Your shoulders ache. Your eyes feel like old paper. Your mouth is dry enough that your tongue sticks to the roof like it's glued there. You sit up, set your feet on the cold dirt floor, the straw beneath them shifting a little, and you stand, like you never laid down at all. Outside, the mist hasn't lifted yet. It rests over dead grass and naked trees, like someone laid a damp cloth across the whole world. You pass a row of broken corn stalks, bent and snapped, and pick up a small ear that didn't even fill out. You drop it again. It's not enough, not even for the pigs. You head to the field you plowed last month. The rice didn't take this year. Some plants are stunted, some are hollow, some are chewed clean by rats. Most look like they just barely escaped dying and have no plans to grow much further. You start harvesting early when the wind's still soft and the sweat doesn't run. The sickle fits in your hand like it always has. Your wrist moves on its own now. You don't think about it. Each cut sends a slow sting up your arm, settling in your shoulder like a warm bruise. The stalks snap easily, dry and weightless, like they've given up. You gather them into bundles, tie them, carry them on your back. Your spine bends, not from the weight, but from something quieter. A kind of tired that settles in once you stop asking why. By noon, you count half a sack, not full. The grains slip through your fingers like sweat off your brow. You pick them up again, not because you're afraid of waste, but because you're tired of losing anything else. A third of that sack will go to the Lord. That part's always the same. Nobody needs to remind anyone. They'll come take it when it's time. Another tenth will go to the church. Something about asking for a better harvest next year, though you can't remember a single prayer that ever made it back. You set aside a small pouch of seed, hardest grains, driest ones, colored like something that still believes in spring. The rest fits into a woven basket, covered in damp cloth to keep it from drying out too fast. You look at it, not like food, more like a math problem with no solution. Not enough for a month, maybe 2 weeks if you skip dinner, maybe a month if your wife can stretch it with turnip scraps and rice husks boiled into gruel. Each scoop out feels like peeling something from your own skin, like you're not grabbing rice, but breaths, thin and sharp. Sometimes your hands hesitate just for a second, then they move again, because sometimes standing still hurts more than being hungry. The rats are fatter this year. They don't even hide, just run from one end of the field to the other, leaving long tracks in the dirt that look like old scars stretched too far. You caught one once, skinned it, roasted it, ate it plain. The meat was chewy, dry, and smelled like burnt sticks. But it beat boiled grass. The kids saw you eat it. They didn't laugh, didn't ask, just swallowed hard and looked away. Around the village, everyone knows this year won't be better than the last. Nobody says it, but every time someone mentions crops, people look down like they dropped something. The ones with full jars shut their doors early. The ones with empty ones lie down and pretend to be sick, hoping nobody comes to borrow what they don't have. You don't borrow, you just eat less. Save your share so the little one can eat a bit more. Dinner's thinner now, more water than rice, less grain, more chewing with nothing to chew. The vegetables don't need seasoning because there's nothing to season with. Salt ran out last month. You gnaw on a piece of burnt bread made from barley flour and husks, baked with stove ash. It's hard, like biting a rock, but at least it gives your mouth something to do. You hear your wife breathing. She doesn't talk, just breathes, like even speaking might steal the air from her lungs. The child's in her lap, arms around an empty bowl like it's a pillow. Eyes open, then closed. No lullaby needed. You sit by the fire, add a handful of soft rotten wood. The flames don't catch. They just glow the way you do, dim and tired. Outside, the wind gets colder. The flap on the hut doesn't close right. The breeze carries in the smell of wet straw, soggy smoke, and somewhere close, a dead rat. You pull your shirt tighter. It doesn't reach your knees. You sit there, not thinking, not counting days, just listening to your stomach whine like a small cat asking for something you can't give. You think about tomorrow, then don't. Because tomorrow is just more of today. And today? Today only mattered because you're still breathing. And there's still a little rice that hasn't been taken yet. But you know, sooner or later, it'll go. Rice never really belongs to you. It just waits until someone claims it, through taxes, through rules, through hunger. You lie down, no blanket, no coals, just a thin mat, and your knees curled up like cold metal hooks. The wind still hisses through the roof, slips under your collar, and crawls down your spine. You close your eyes, not because you're sleepy, just because there's nothing else left to do. And in the quiet, your stomach growls again. Familiar, steady, like it knows what's coming next. You can't really remember the last time your stomach felt full. Maybe it was 3 summers ago when the corn grew right, the rain came on time, and the taxman slipped on a rock and didn't show up for a while. Or maybe you made that memory up so you'd have something to fall asleep to. Now it's winter again. The frost on the roof looks like someone sprinkled salt and forgot to sweep it off. You wake up to that dull feeling, the one where your belly clings to your spine like it gave up being a belly and just wanted to be a gap instead. It doesn't growl anymore. It's quiet now. Just a low, empty hum, like breath in a sealed jar. There's nothing to chew this morning, just a wooden bowl so clean you can see cracks in the grain you never noticed in better years. Your wife stirs hot water with a sliver of tree root and a pinch of cold ash. The water turns a tired kind of gray, no smell, no steam. Nobody asks what it is. You hold the cup, blow gently, take a sip, like it's something old and precious. Your tongue can't tell what it tastes like, it's just warm. For a second. Then it's gone. You leave the hut while the mist is still clinging to the dirt. The ground's frozen hard, feels like stepping barefoot on broken bricks. Last night's mud has turned to flakes, sharp and dry. Every step clicks like a knuckle popping. You're not heading to the fields. The fields are rocks now. The grass gave up a long time ago. You walk around the village instead, not really going anywhere, just hoping something, somewhere, might still be edible. A dried-up apple hanging too high, a cabbage stump the rats forgot, a corner of stale bread soft with mold, white, green, more fur than food. You bring it home, set it by the fire. Not too close, not too far. Let the flames kiss the edges. The mold turns to burn, and the burn smells, well, almost like food. You break it, half for her, a smaller piece for the kid. The rest you eat slow, one bite, pause, another. Like if you eat slow enough, your belly might get tricked into thinking it's a feast, but it doesn't. It still knows. It still moans, soft and offbeat, like a drum no one asked to play. By late afternoon, the sky turns the color of old dishwater, and the wind starts twisting the straw roofs like someone wringing out a wet rag. You crawl back inside, pull the scratchy cloth over your shoulders. The kid is curled up like a snail, arms around its belly. Your wife sits combing her hair, not talking, just combing. Like each stroke might be a quiet prayer. No one says it's bedtime. You all just lie down, eyes closed, waiting for the hours to fall through like water slipping through a basket with no bottom. There's no barking tonight. There haven't been many dogs since last winter. Some got lost, some just vanished. The rest, you stopped asking. People are eating things now they used to throw away. Bark dried and boiled, tastes bitter, chews like an old boot. But if you boil it long enough, it goes down. Roots too. Some make your stomach twist for 2 whole days, but you eat them anyway. Pain beats starving. That's the kind of logic you get when logic runs out. You once saw the oldest man in the village chewing grass, no teeth, just gums. Chewed it, spat it, chewed again. Not because it filled him, but because it gave his body something to do. A way to say, I'm still here. You watched. Then bent down and found a few blades for yourself. It tasted like dirt, wet, bitter, stuck in your throat longer than you'd like to admit. Your stomach doesn't make noise anymore. It's learning to stay quiet, like you. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind settles down and there's nothing left moving, you hear it. A soft sound, almost like breath breaking. It's not the wind. It's your body whispering old names. Porridge, bread, roasted meat. Words no one says out loud anymore, because even saying them leaves your mouth tasting like dust. Next morning, you don't go out. The wind is sharper, and your feet don't want to move. You sit by the fire that isn't lit, arms wrapped around your knees, breathing slow, waiting for the light to crawl in through a crack in the straw wall. Your wife stirs plain water again, just water, warm, then less warm, then nothing. The kid doesn't wake up, or maybe just pretends not to. Eyes shut tight, body curled up, no answer when you call. You don't call twice. You go look for wood, not to cook with, just to keep the cold from winning. The dry pieces are gone. You're left with damp ones, the kind that smoke more than burn. You pile them anyway, coax out a little heat, sit close. The smoke clings to your clothes, your skin, your hair. You don't flinch. The smell helps cover the hunger, helps you forget your stomach, helps you fall into something that's not quite sleep. That night, you don't sleep. You just lie there, listening, wind, wood cracking, a breath that might be yours. For a second you think maybe you're dreaming, but nothing changes. The hut is still cold, your belly still empty, and dreams. Dreams don't smell like bread. You're not sure how long you slept. Could have been a few hours. Could have been just a blink between two sharp gusts. When your eyes open, the fire's down to wet ash, whispering in that soft, scratchy way, like someone mumbling under a blanket that's still damp. The smoke clings to your nose, sharp, sour, and faintly sweet, but you don't mind it. It's better than the wind. The wind has no smell, just a sound, squeezing through gaps in the door, sliding under your clothes, poking each knuckle like it's trying to count your bones. You close your eyes again, then open them, as if doing it enough times might convince the morning to finally show up. It doesn't. The child's still there, lying near his mother, arms curled under his chin, head resting on a scrap of cloth. You hear breathing, barely, like warm breath skimming the rim of a metal bowl. His eyes are shut, mouth slightly open, not like he's sleeping, but like he's waiting for something that didn't show up. You say his name, quiet. No answer. Your mother sits near the fire pit, warming her hands over ash that doesn't give off smoke anymore. She doesn't look at you, and you don't ask anything. You find a leftover turnip under the jar, not crisp, not clean, just soft, and not in a good way. You carve off the rot, scoop out the middle, drop it in cold water, and wait. Then pour it into a small bowl. Bring it to his lips. He doesn't open them. You touch the spoon to his mouth. It's dry, like burnt straw. No response. You try again. Still nothing. You set the bowl down. Sit closer. There's nothing left to do but wait. Your mother doesn't ask. She stares into the ashes like she's reading them. Her eyes don't blink. Her shoulders don't move. Her hands hover like the warmth still there, if she just believes hard enough. The hut goes quiet, not because no one speaks, but because there's nothing left worth saying. Even the child, he doesn't groan or cry or murmur, just breathes, then doesn't. By the time you notice, he's still, mouth slack, eyes barely open, hands dropped, no gasp, no final shiver, no storybook wind through the door, no mouse running past the floor like in the old tales. Just nothing. You sit there a little longer, then cover him with a worn shirt. No one cries. Why would they? Every drop of water needs saving, for bread, for the earth, for something else that might still be alive. You lift him gently. He's light, like straw. You wrap him in the blanket, lean back against the straw wall. Your mother doesn't say a word. She taps a cold ember like if she touched it long enough, the fire might remember how to burn. The wind keeps going outside. Inside, everything stops. You don't feel sad, or angry, or cold, just empty, like a metal basin flipped upside down with no bottom to hold anything in. You don't bury him right away. The ground's too hard, the shovel's too dull, your arms are too tired. You lay him in the corner by what used to be the stove. Add another layer of cloth, not because he can feel it, but because you can't stand the thought of him being colder than you. You look toward the door. It's morning technically, but the light outside doesn't look any different from before. Just more gray, less shadow. You don't go to the fields that day. No one blames you. They've all had their own days like this, and they'll have more. You walk around the village not to get anywhere, just to keep your eyes away from that one corner. The wind makes them red, but no tears come, just dry. Dry eyes, dry mouth, dry inside. Someone hands you a stick of firewood. You take it, not sure what for, and push it into the snow, like leaving a mark you hope no one remembers. That night you light a fire using scraps, old grass, soft straw, splintered wood. You sit close, eyes closed, listening to the ash pop, like tiny feet tapping across a wooden floor. Your mother still sits nearby, hands no longer out, just resting on her knees like she's holding something heavy that isn't there. You exhale, long and slow, trying to push out the air that's been sitting in your chest too long, but it only trades places with the smell of mildew and smoke. You don't sleep, not really, not even dreams, just eyes open, staring at the ceiling, where a few straw pieces have fallen out, leaving holes that show you the color of dying sky. When the wind blows, the roof shudders and squeaks like a distant sigh. You don't cover your ears, you listen, hoping somewhere in that sound a small voice might still be calling your name from a place warmer than this. Next morning you wake early, grab the shovel, step outside. The ground's still hard. You stomp on it, hit it with a rock. Each swing sends a sting up your arms, but you don't stop. You dig, not deep, just deep enough. You place him in. No prayers, no cross, no words, just a burial, so no one has to see. You pat the dirt down, stand up, don't look back, you walk. You're not sure how long. When you return, the skies turn pale. Your mother's still sitting in the same place. The fire's gone out, and life, it goes on, like a wheel that rolls on frozen ground without anyone pushing it. You come back from the burial with mud on your hands, wind in your collar, and eyes that sting from the smoke. Inside, your mother hasn't moved. The fire still hasn't started. You gather damp straw and blow until your breath gives out. A thin thread of smoke rises across your knuckles, not enough to warm you, not enough to see much, but enough to catch your reflection in the side of a worn wooden spoon. Your face looks longer than you remember, thinner, and somehow like someone who used to have a reason to keep going but misplaced it somewhere. You're not sad, not angry, not hurt, just tired in the lower back. And your hands always feel like they're holding something, even when they're empty. The next morning is just like the one before, cold. The sun climbs but can't make it past the fog and ash. You grab the same dull hoe and walk to the field, shoes worn down to the soft part. Each step leaves a mark that says, quietly, nothing's changed. Wind cuts down the back of your neck, travels down your spine like a cracked tile under bare feet. You don't bother pulling your collar up. That habit stopped being a conscious choice a while ago. You hold the hoe, your thoughts don't. Your body goes through the old routine. Hoe, soil, bend, breathe in dust, listen to the wind. The castle on the hill is still lit at night. You can see flickers of gold from small windows, glowing faint against the stone like someone watching from above. The old folks say when the plague hit, the Lord sent for a priest, brought medicine, and blankets thick as rugs. There were wagons with salt, dried greens, chestnuts. The castle gate stayed shut. Guards with spears stood outside. No one was let in, not because of the sickness, just because no one down here was worth the risk. They say the Lord's still doing fine. 3 hot meals, servants who carry warm wine to his bedside. One night, someone spotted firelight in the upper courtyard. Might have been a mass, might have been a party. Nobody asked. They just looked. Then lowered their heads, went back to pulling rocks from frozen dirt. You didn't look, not out of envy. That feeling's gone, takes energy. You didn't look because it makes your neck ache, and that ache is enough to keep you up all night. When the dying slowed, not ended, just slowed, or maybe enough people had died already, a messenger came to the village, long cloak, black horse, scroll in hand, didn't knock, didn't bow, didn't offer prayers, just stood in the middle of what used to be the market and read, "With fewer people, each must give more. Taxes do not fall with the dead. If you object, ask them to pay in your place." Then he turned and left, like he'd just dropped off a letter no one dared not open. You stood there, let each word hit the dirt. Didn't speak, no need. You already knew, same as everyone, that arguing doesn't fill pots. And the ones who used to argue, no one talks about where they ended up. Could be the woods, could be swinging at the gate. You don't want to know. Knowing doesn't keep you warm. You go home, put the hoe away, take the cloth sack with the last seeds. Not enough. Never is. But you plant anyway. Leave the soil empty, and someone else might come take it. You don't think about harvest. Don't think about autumn. Just think about pushing dirt over something today. Your hands move like they've been doing this since someone else's life. No thought needed. Evening comes. You sit by the field's edge, watching the light stretch across puddles. In the water, your reflection smudged, like soot stirred into broth. You splash your face. It's cold, not refreshing, just enough to keep your eyes open. You breathe out, long, slow, like wind sliding through broken branches. Up on the hill, lights flicker on again. You don't look. You just sit there, letting the dark roll in. Your mother's still by the hearth. The ash is white now. No coal, no smoke, just wind under the door and mice chewing behind the jars. You don't light the fire. You don't try. You sit down, back to the wall, eyes closed, hands resting on your knees. You're not waiting, not hoping, just staying still. Next day the taxes come due. Some bring potatoes, some bring spoiled grain, some hand over cloth that's more patch than fabric. No pushing, no arguing. Each person steps forward, head down, drops off their share, and walks off like something got lifted. But their shoulders don't show it. Their heads stay low. Their steps stay slow. When it's your turn, you bring half a sack of barley. The taxman doesn't look up, writes something on goat hide, waves the next one in. You leave, don't turn back. You cook soup from boiled weeds, smells sharp, tastes bitter, but it's hot. Your mother eats 3 spoonfuls, then sets it down, says nothing. You finish the rest, not good, not bad, just food, like living, something you do even if you don't remember why. You wash the bowl in shared water, smells like mud and pig. You don't scrub hard, just rinse. Night comes again. Lights still flicker on the hill. Wind still whistles. Mice still chew. You lie down. pull the cloth over your chest. Listen to the wind tapping at the wall like bones knocking softly. You don't get up, don't answer. Just pull the cloth closer and close your eyes. You don't bother pulling the blanket higher anymore. The wind still slips through the walls. The lights on the hill still glow. But you just lie there, eyes open, staring up at the fabric roof like you're waiting for a sound. Maybe a rat, maybe a name. Nothing comes. You don't remember falling asleep, but by the time you open your eyes, someone's gone. No screaming, no crying. Just silence so thick it feels like the breath never made it out of anyone's chest. You stand next to the body. You didn't know him, just someone from the village. His skin looks dry, tightened like hide cured too fast near a smoky fire. No one asks who'll take care of it. Everyone knows. If you're still breathing, you handle the ones who aren't. It's not a duty, not kindness. It's just what you do. You crouch, check his wrist. Cold. You start gathering branches. The fire's built on the dirt in front of the old grain store. It burns dark, thick, with the smell of dead grass, damp mold, and something else underneath. You step back. The smoke stings your eyes. Others stand around you. No one says anything. No prayers, no songs, no robes. Some close their eyes. Some stare at the flames. Some look at the ground, like it's safer to keep their thoughts underfoot. A handful of ash is scattered, not much. The hand that tosses it shakes, but keeps the rhythm. You whisper something, maybe a name, maybe just air. Doesn't matter. There's no ceremony, no robes, no staff. Just a ring of people around a shrinking fire, the way a heartbeat sounds when you're wearing too many coats. Tired, steady, and no one notices. When the fire dies, you bury him. Not deep, just enough. A thin blanket of dirt, like covering up a secret no one wants to dig into. You press it down with the side of your hoe. It's not your first time. Someone brings a piece of cloth, spreads it gently across the top like they're tucking him in. Nobody looks at each other. Everyone walks away in a different direction. Nobody wants to be the last one still standing there. The smoke clings to you all day. It gets in your hair, under your nails, mixes with sweat and soil that dried yesterday. You try to wash it off at the well, but the water's too cold and the smell doesn't leave. It follows you when you eat, when you sleep, when you reach for a bowl or lean against the wall. It's in everything, like the wind sneaking under a door. You can't see it, but it's there. That night, you dream. He's sitting by the hearth holding a spoon, eyes open, but not looking at anything. You don't ask anything. You just sit beside him. The spoon taps the side of the bowl. Clack, clack. Soft and steady, like a heartbeat in a room with no way out. When you wake up, your hands are on your chest. Your eyes are wet, not because you're sad, just because something inside you ran out of space to stay. In the days after, there are more burials, no bells, no counting, just one after another, like a quiet drizzle that won't stop, cold and slow, and not worth mentioning. Someone says the first ones to die were lucky. Someone else says death is a way out. But nobody really wants to go. Leaving still needs someone to see you off. And the ones left behind are too busy thinking about ash, not tears. You start moving faster. Dig, cover, flatten, gather. Your body knows the order now. Your hands don't wait for your head. The graves blur together. No markers, no names. One time you scratched a letter into wood. Rain wiped it clean. You didn't write another. Every mound looks the same, like those bowls of thin porridge. Can't tell who got which one. You sleep less, eat less. But you keep going, not because you're strong, just because it's not your turn yet. The wind finds its way through the wall, brings the smell of old smoke and someone else's sigh. You dig up the soft roots, pull what's left from a rotting turnip, boil it. The smell isn't better, just different. Smoke and rot, side by side. You eat without sound, like you're chewing on someone else's last breath. The village gets quieter, the table gets emptier. Some nights it's just you and your mother. Some nights she doesn't speak. You make porridge, place it in front of her, then stare at the fire. The flame skips like it's trying not to be seen. You don't ask if she's hungry. Don't press, just sit there, like a branch that never caught fire. Then it's the boy you grew up with. He used to laugh. Once pushed you into the mud over an onion. Now he's curled up on the floor, mouth dry, eyes closed, arms across his belly like he's guarding something that's already gone. You can't think of anything to say, not sad, not angry. You just wrap him in cloth, call a few others. They come, they help. No words. The ashes rise again. The smoke curls again. Your face gets smudged with soot again. And the smell, it comes back. This time, you don't scrub. You let it stay. Like a name never written down. Like a prayer nobody said out loud. Each time you smell it, you remember them. Not their faces, but the sounds. The snap of burning wood, the breath that never finished, the soft thud of a spoon hitting the floor, all the sounds mixed together until you can't tell who was who. That night lying down, you realize you don't know what day tomorrow is. Not sure what today was either. You remember the wind, the smoke, the number of graves your hands have made. But you can't recall the last time someone laughed. You close your eyes, pull the cloth up to your nose. The ash is still there, faint, like someone whispering your name just before sleep. Quiet, distant, not urgent, just enough to remind you you're still here. You don't remember what time you woke up. It wasn't dark, but it wasn't morning either. Just that gray in between. The kind that clings like leftover ash on the windowsill. You sat up, pulled on your coat. Your hand caught on a loose button, but you didn't fix it. No one fixes buttons this time of year. No one fixes anything, really. You just wear what's left, step outside, and close the chicken coop door behind you, even if there's nothing left inside. The ground's still wet. Mud wraps around your ankles like an old whisper you'd rather not remember. It's not raining, but the wind's sharp, cold like well water first thing in the morning, the kind that bites the back of your neck and settles into your spine like it's unpacking for a long stay. You don't look around, doesn't matter who's still here. You just walk toward the field, feet sinking a little with every step, like you're dragging the dead season along behind you. The hoe was left out the night before, so was the seed bag. You don't remember picking them up. Your fingers find the wooden handle, rough, like the inside of a scorched pot. Not sharp, not smooth, but familiar. Everything is by now. Smoke, wind, the numbness in your hands, the stubborn layer of dirt that doesn't want to be turned over. You don't count the rows, don't measure, just crouch down, scrape a shallow line, and begin. The seeds drop from your hand like ash, light, forgettable. No one's waiting for them. Some split when they hit the ground. Some vanish into the mud. You don't chase them. Each seed feels like a person, not because you think it, but because your hand remembers. Dropping a seed feels the same as covering a body with dirt. Same weight. Just today, the soil's a little softer. You don't wish for a harvest. You don't picture more turnips than last time. Hunger doesn't live that far ahead. You just sow. Because sowing comes next. Like digging yesterday, like boiling water last week, not a decision, not a hope, just a task that found its way to your hands. And your hands, they don't tremble, don't hurt. They're just worn smooth like river stones with the sharp edges rubbed off. The sky doesn't brighten, just a pale kind of light, the color of rinsed rice water, pushes through the clouds, clouds the color of old cloth no one's bothered to wash. The wind kicks harder, but not enough to stop you. Your coat pulls slightly to the side, like a tug from someone about to speak, but you don't turn around. You already know what's behind you. No one calls your name, no one expects you to answer. You plant the last seed without realizing it. The bag is empty, light as breath. You brush your hands together, but the dirt doesn't let go. Your back aches. Your legs are cold. But you don't say anything. No one complains anymore. Complaining doesn't soften the ground, doesn't fatten the root, doesn't fill the bowl. You stand. Look at the rows you've made, long even, like beds without blankets. You don't mark the spot. Don't build a fence. Just walk off the field like you've buried something there and don't need to talk about it. No one asks what you planted. No one asks if you think it'll grow. Even you aren't sure. But you planted. That's all you've got left to hold on to. That's how you know today happened. And maybe, just maybe, tomorrow will too. You pass the old well on the way back. No water in it. The stones around the rim are chipped and jagged, like someone's teeth after too many winters. You don't stop. Just glance at it, like you always do. It never says anything, but you still glance like maybe someday it will, even if you don't expect it to say anything good. Back at the tent, you don't go in right away. You sit on the wooden step by the door. Lean your back against the post. The wind slips through the gaps in the wall, bringing the smell of last night's ash and the soft flap of dry hide. You tilt your face toward the sky, not looking for anything, not counting, just letting the cold press against your skin to remind you that you're still here, still breathing. You hear someone cough inside, not loud, not urgent, just one cough like a branch falling onto the roof. You don't go in, no need. If they're coughing, they're still alive. That's enough. Like the hoe hitting the dirt, like the seed hitting the earth, like a breath taken in the dark. It's all still there, barely, quietly, but still. You close your eyes, just for a moment. Not to sleep, just to let everything inside your head go still. No smoke, no fire, no hands covering bodies, just a blank space, wide enough to remember something else. Maybe a voice calling your name, maybe a story from 2 winters ago, but nothing comes. Just silence, full, round, heavy. When you open your eyes, you go inside. No one asks where you've been. No one says how long you were gone. You hang your coat on the nail. Sit beside the cold stove. Slide your hand into the ash, looking for leftover warmth. There's none, but you do it anyway. It's a habit. And habit's the last thing that stays when everything else has gone. Like the seeds you sowed, you're not waiting for proof. You just know you did it. Outside, the sky isn't dark yet, but no one else is out. They've all gone back into their shelters, pulled the cloth shut, pressed an old rock against the door. You do the same. Night will come, like it always does. And tomorrow, maybe, you'll walk the field again, not to check, just to pass by, to see if the soil looks drier, to wonder if today's wind feels different than yesterday's. And if it does, will anyone notice? You're still here, not because the soil got better, not because winter got softer, Not because there was more food or firewood or medicine hidden in some forgotten box. You just didn't die. Like a lantern no one remembered to refill, but somehow the flame never quite went out. It flickers in a corner of the kitchen no one uses. No one gathers around it. No stories are told near it. But the light is still there. And like everything else around you, it doesn't need a reason to keep going. You wake up early. Not because there's something to do, there's always something to do, but because your body gets up before your mind remembers not to. It pulls the coat over your shoulders, steps outside, and doesn't ask questions. The shoes are still damp from yesterday. The coat still smells like smoke. Your left foot still twinges when you step on that crooked stone near the shed. But you don't fix anything. Everything's still where it was, including the pain. You step into the backyard. The chicken coop's still empty. The water trough still dry. You scoop a bit of cold ash from the stove and rub it between your hands, not to warm them, just to keep the dew off. The ash gets into the cracks on your knuckles, under your nails, into the lines on your wrist. It clings to you like an old season that forgot how to leave. You wipe your hands on your pants, sit on the step. No one calls your name. No one needs you anywhere. You think about the people who are gone, not as faces, just in the spaces they left behind, the chair they used to sit in, the cutting board with the crack down the middle, the hum someone used to sing while washing up, all quiet now. And you don't try too hard to remember. What would be the point? To feel worse? To tell someone? There's no one left to listen. And even if there were, you wouldn't know where to start. You still eat. A little. Bland. You don't ask what it is. Turnip gruel, moldy bread, watered down beer. You drink it like well water, just hoping your stomach won't complain later. You don't cook for taste. Don't season. Don't plate. Just chew and swallow. Sometimes you forget if you already ate, because today tastes like yesterday, and yesterday tasted like last week. Your stomach doesn't care anymore. It only reacts to empty. Sleep doesn't follow rules either. It shows up when it wants, leaves when it wants. Sometimes you nod off with your head against the post, mouth hanging open like you've just stopped breathing. But you haven't. You still wake up when it rains. You still feel the wind sneaking through the cracks. Your eyes blink, not for dreams, but because ash settled on your lashes. Sleep is short, heavy, not inviting, like a cold hand on the back of your neck, telling you to lie down for a minute. People don't talk much anymore. There's nothing left to say, nothing new to tell. When you pass each other at the well, in the field, or near the old fire pit, it's just a nod. No one asks how you're holding up. If you're here, you're here. If not, the dirt knows. You used to remember a woman's laugh, a child's voice. Now you only remember the sound of the wooden door creaking open, a knife tapping a bowl, the fire spitting at wet wood. Every sound drags longer in the wind, like an echo from a dream that didn't end properly. You don't think about why. No one does. The ones who used to talk about reasons, about sky and hope and better springs, they were the first to go. Disease, failed harvest, no more wood for the fire. You? Well, you just dug. You boiled. You kept warm. You didn't argue. You didn't dream. You didn't plan. And maybe that's the reason you're still here. You live by habit. Every motion, washing your hands, peeling a root, carrying wood, sweeping ash, it's all stitched into you now. Your body remembers, so your mind doesn't have to. You don't check what day it is. Don't care what month. All you need to know is this. the dirt needs turning, the wood needs splitting, and your mouth needs something, anything, to chew. Everything else is extra. Your eyes are going, but you can still see. Your hands are weak, but they still grip the hoe. Your back is bent, but it still hauls a basket of greens. You're not stronger than before, but not so weak you've had to lie down and stay. You were never the fastest, never the smartest, never the loudest, but you didn't stop, and maybe that's all it takes. Once you wondered if survival was a prize, but you stopped asking, because the prize never came. No pouch of gold, no hot soup, no one clapping your shoulder and saying, "Good job." You just get another day, just like the ones before, and tomorrow you'll do it again. No one's forcing you, but no one's stopping you either, so you keep going. Sometimes during the quietest moments, when the wind takes a break, the ash settles, and the others are asleep, you feel something in your chest. Not warmth, not joy, just space. Space that isn't cold anymore, like your body stopped waiting for an ending, and because of that, it stopped yelling for one. You don't need a reason to live, you just do, because you haven't stopped. Outside, the wind is back, the sky's not light yet, but you've already got your coat on. You grab the hoe, head back to the field, look at the old row of dirt, and take a step. Your legs ache, but they hold steady. No one's behind you, no one's ahead. You're just a small mark moving across the land, not bright, not loud, not named, but real. You keep walking, not because there's anywhere to go, not because someone's waiting, but because your feet forgot how to stop. The hoe is still in your hand, same as your fingers, same as your breath. Each step sinks a little into cold mud, slow, steady, not rushed, not paused. The sun rises, then falls. The wind comes, then leaves. Crops grow, then rot, then grow again. You stopped counting a long time ago. The people who used to live nearby, some of them got their names carved into old wood, if they were lucky. Most didn't. They're somewhere under this ground you step across every day, and you don't even know where. Not because you forgot, but because memory, too, needs rationing now. You keep just enough to remember that you were part of something more than ash and weeds. You don't ask what life is for. That question blew away a few winters ago. You don't remember which one. Now life just means waking up early, starting a fire, breaking bread, chewing slow, and watching the ashes rise. Small things, but they're enough to keep you here, a fading shape across a quiet field at dusk. No one comes to tell your story. No one writes anything down, but you're still here, like a wooden bowl that never cracked, though the edges splintered, like a roof that never fell, though it leans too far to the left. You're not glorious, you're not famous, you're not remembered. But you lived through sickness, hunger, winters, taxes, and the kind of forgetting that settles deeper than snow. And if someday, somewhere, someone asks, how did people used to live? Maybe there'll be an answer, faint, smoky, unclear. But somewhere in that answer, there might be you, a bent back, sunken eyes, a trembling hand, and a heart still beating. Not loud, not brave, just still beating. And that's enough. Enough to keep the story from disappearing completely. Enough to help the world turn one more time, even if it never remembers your name.